Welcome to Week and Geek, your new comics preview for March 19th. I'm Mike Ortiz.
And I'm Chris Brown.
So what do you got?
Well, I'd like to mention real quick that I believe last week's episode was our 3-year anniversary.
Oh, yes, that's true.
I think we had 3 years worth of episodes. We were like, meh, whatever. Totally didn't even mention it.
That's
so,
true.
Yeah, hey, happy anniversary to us.
Happy anniversary.
And also another book I'd like to lead off with that I don't actually have in my stack here, but I'd like to talk about a little bit is a book called Portraits of Poe, being done by Rocket Ink Studios. It's Tony Maiello and Bill Pukowski.
Tony, who's been on the show.
Tony has been on the show, yep. He has been Mike Ortiz more than once, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
And he's got this project going where essentially they're printing some stories from Poe, and then they had artists do portraits of Edgar Allan Poe in this book. Cool. They got it started through Indiegogo, and they're going to be doing a signing here. They'll be here Wednesday starting at noon until they decide to go. So yeah, it should be really cool. You can pick up that book here on Wednesday, and a really neat project and something neat from two really talented artists.
Very much so.
And good friends. Tony's a good dude.
Check it out for sure.
I don't know if you saw on Facebook from the Indiana Comic Con, there's a picture of, there's video of Dan Doherty, Tony Maiello, and Dirk Manning singing karaoke together. It's like, oh, it's like my new favorite thing. So, all right, let's dig into.
You got a hell of a stack. Let's
get moving here. So I've got Daredevil #1. This is the revamped Daredevil. This is the same creative team.
Yeah.
It's Mark Waid. It's Chris Samney.
It's San Francisco.
But he moved. That's right. He had all those devastating things happen. So now he's in San Francisco. So you need a new #1 for that. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's going to be just as good as it has been. You know, they had their little hurrah over in Hell's Kitchen, and now we're starting in a new location.
I would imagine
cool.
the tone will be even a little lighter. You know, being out in California.
Is that a San Francisco joke?
I'm not saying.
Are you saying Daredevil's shoes are lighter? What are you saying? So next I've got...
I'm just saying there's more sun.
There is, and I bet he is happier. Not that it matters to a blind guy.
Oh,
he can see it. Yeah, it's the vitamin.
Yeah.
Vitamin D or whatever is good for you. But you can't see the sunshine.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just as dark as Hell's Kitchen. All right. Next we've got All New Invaders. This is issue 3. I think this book has been pretty cool. This is by James Robinson. I know you said you never really got into the Invaders, but I like the idea. It's a current story where the Invaders have all been kind of spread out, and the Kree are trying to get this device that was lost in World War II. So they've got to kind of pick up all the old Invaders, and they're getting inside their heads and trying to track down the information of where this piece is.
I kind of wish that they actually did an Invader story set back then, though. The way like that Marvel's project was.
Yeah,
like
but it never works. So if
it never sells.
This is the strength of James Robinson, though, to be able to take something modern and be able to constantly flash back, and he'll tell better stories that way. I think. And that's kind of what he did with Starman, where he went back and forth, and you got the taste of the Golden Age. And as long as he does that, I think we're going to be good. I'd like that book. Next, I've got Seekers of the Weird. This is that Disney Kingdoms book. This is a family of. Basically, they're supposed to hold down the fort of all these various objects. It's got a very Warehouse 13, Friday the 13th, the series kind of thing going on. And there are another group that's trying to get these objects and use them for, ill purposes, deceitful purposes. Now, these were all designs that were originally done by, I can't think of, it was a very famous Disney artist, and he was trying to work on them. They were going to build a museum of the weird with all of his bizarre stuff. Cool. And never happened. So now that Disney and Marvel are in bed together, they're doing a comic and exploring some of these designs and weird things. And it's actually, I didn't realize this until I read the letters page of the last issue. Brandon Seifert, the writer, he was the guy that was doing the, what was that weird doctor book over at Dr. Witchcraft or whatever the heck was going on at Image. What was that?
I remember that book.
It was, which I really enjoyed. It was that weird...
The Bernie Wrightson looking...
Yeah, really cool stuff.
Oh, what was that called? Doctor something.
Or Witch Doctor.
Witch Doctor.
Dr. Witchcraft. I was right there. I'm like, I don't know, the one with the stuff. Next up, I've got Dexter #2. This is Dexter Down Under. I've not read the first issue, but I did like the first miniseries they did. So now I guess Dexter's in Australia. He's not a lumberjack per se, but who knows what's going on. This is sort of a mixture of the books and the television show where they're mixing mythos and things, and it's kind of its own thing while being also the other two. I like it, though. It's better than a lumberjack. Then I'm looking at letter 44. This is issue number 5. This is Charles Soule doing some really, really cool stuff. Our astronauts are out in space trying to figure out what's coming on with an alien invasion. Looks like we got a conspiracy on Earth within the government who knows what's going on but doesn't necessarily want the president to reveal anything. At the end of the last issue, our astronauts seemed to touch something, and now they ended up in some weird garden. Something weird's going on. He's such a great storyteller, does some really, really cool stuff, and this is political intrigue and sci-fi and just cool, really, really cool book. Now I'm going to dig into a little Vertigo here. Scott Snyder is revisiting his American Vampire. This is with Raphael Albuquerque. This is the second cycle.
Right.
So, I guess they're just they were all just kind of mini-series anyway. He'd tell a story arc, and it took place in a time, and the mini-series focused on the one group, the one girl who was a vampire with her human boyfriend, and then the regular series mostly focused on Skinner Sweet, which is a great name, by the way, for a Western outlaw vampire character. So I'm not really sure what they're going to do with this second cycle, where it's going to go. This is Mexican territory of Arizona, 1811 is where the location seems to pick up, and we're exploring the new American vampire, where their abilities and things are a little different.
Interesting.
But we jump from vampires to werewolves. Mike Morisi, what is this? We got Michael Morisi and Tim Daniel writing, art by Riley Rossmo and Colin Lorimer. Some really cool stuff in the really darker sequences. You got Riley doing a lot of this werewolf stuff that just looks phenomenal.
Good stuff.
This was a guy that's tracking down a werewolf, and then there's a little bit more intrigue, and it's gritty, and it's nasty, and it's really, really cool. And great artwork. I mean, I love seeing Riley draw werewolves. Obviously, is freaking fantastic. And then this other guy, I think, is pretty great too. Colin Lorimer's got really clean stuff. It looks good. It's got like a dark shadow to the colors, and really well written book. And I'm enjoying that. I'm liking to see things going well for Mike. Next, we've got The Fuse. This was the book that sort of reminded me a little bit about Alien Nation. There's some weird things going on, but it's on a space station. And there's it's got a little bit of the dirty side of Total Recall as well, kind of. I mean, not quite. You made me wish you had three hands, but just the the seedier area and things going on. And one guy's very much by the book. And why would anyone want to come up here? Well, I requested it. And so far, that first issue was a lot neater than I expected. I didn't know what to expect out of Johnston. Honest, the only thing I knew from Anthony Johnston, he had written Wasteland for Oni, which I hadn't read, and then he's doing Umbral at Image, which I did really like, so I wanted to check his new thing, and it's got a cool sci-fi bend, and I like it. Next, we've got Ghosted number 8. This is our master thief with a supernatural bend. I've not even started this story arc, admittedly. I liked that first story arc. I thought it was kind of cool. This next one, he was trying to get away, but of course, he's kind of gotten his freedom. He'd been broken out of prison. He's trying to just stay away at this point. And some other people are trying to track him down and not exactly let that happen. So that first story arc, I thought, built pretty well and then kind of ended a little abruptly. We'll see what they do here. Josh Williamson was also writing that Xenoholics with Seth the Moose, I believe. That Aliens kind of weird book.
Yeah, I remember that book.
So I'm wondering if he just maybe rushed it a little bit, thinking he was going to get the rug pulled out from under him again, the way he did with Xenoholics, which never got to finish. So maybe he rushed it a little bit, and hopefully he's taking his time in this second arc. We got Sex Criminals number 5. This is a book that I am behind on, like so many things. But this is a couple that started robbing banks, where they could both freeze time with their orgasms. So obviously when they get together and realize this, well, yeah, they're going to do something nefarious. But there seemed to be a group watching over people who could do this sort of thing and the stopping of time. So I need to get caught up. This is really, really a good book, and it is better than the title. The title makes you feel like you need to walk home within a brown paper bag and not let anyone know you're reading it.
Yeah.
But it's a very well-done story.
Yeah. Oh, Matt Fraction's good.
He is. Next, I've got Sovereign. No idea what this is about. It's an Image number 1. The artwork looked pretty cool. It's written by Chris Roberson with art by Paul Mayberry. I don't know. It looks like sort of something in the past, maybe. A little, I don't know, takes place maybe even on a different Earth. I don't know what's going on. But the luminary cannot simply sit behind the walls of silence, ignoring the world around us. Okay, so it's going to have kind of a fantasy bend, maybe post-apocalyptic. I don't know, but the art looks cool. Looks like some discovering of the new world. I don't know. I want to check it out. Look good.
Cool.
So image number 1, when I give it a try. Next, I've got White Suits. This is by Frank J. Barbier, who was doing the Five Ghosts of Fabian Gray. This had kind of a weird, as I recall, there's a Cold War thing going on. It's got a Russian sort of vibe, and then these guys, these white suits, are kind of coming in and taking over some territory. The art is incredible. I like this 3-color vibe, this red, white, and black. Really, really neat. This art is done by Toby Cypress. Don't really know anything else he's done, but I dig it. It was a kind of an interesting story. I wasn't sure what was going on, and then in the end, you meet your white suits and just kind of builds more mystery. But I want to check that out. That's a 4-issue deal. Dark Horse is adding more of these kinds of things and doing miniseries. And I'm wondering if they're going to follow that Hellboy model, like you said.
Yeah, I think
give these guys more miniseries because they need to do something when they lose their biggest license. Next, I'm going to move over to my Valiants. I've got Harbinger Bleeding Monk number 0. So they're going to reveal the ancient origin of the Bleeding Monk, the person who was kind of feeding Harada information originally. But there's a lot more to it. He's aware of everything with the Harbingers and these superpowered people, and he can see the future. And early on, I believe he walked away from his post. But now we're going to get an origin for that character. Next up, Prelude to Armor Hunters is Exo Manowar. As I flipped over that Bleeding Monk, I've got a giant checklist for Armor Hunters. So they really are anchoring their whole universe around Exo Manowar, and every event seems to be anchored around Exo Manowar. Which I guess, there'd be a lot going on. You'd have to band together and stop a super-powered armored guy. Mm-hmm. The cover to Exo Manowar here actually is sort of a riff on an old Superman image, a Golden Age Superman image with him in front of the, kind of the shield, the American colors and stars and stripes with an eagle landing on his arm. But you got Exo Manowar doing that. So this is going to lead us into our next big event. They've been doing a good job. Exo Manowar's been a great character, and I think it is a smart thing to anchor it around this. Before they kind of anchored things around Harbinger and then their, the Solar and Magnus, because that's how they were making them all work. This time around, they don't have those things, but you do have a very strong character in Exo. Cool. And that takes me through my very, very large stack.
Yes. Well, mine is not quite as many books here. I'm going to start off with Avengers World number 4. This is Jonathan Hickman, one of 3 Avengers books he's doing. In the last issue, this is basically, they have different teams of Avengers. This team went to Italy to investigate the disappearance of everyone in the town just vanishes.
Okay.
They go to the town, they see some sort of obelisk or device or something. Starbrand touches it and they get transported into this city of the dead. And that's where we pick up. It looks like we're going to feature Starbrand and Night Mask, who were originally New Universe characters that Jonathan Hickman has brought into regular Marvel continuity. They had a bit to play in Infinity, but we haven't really gotten a lot with them. But it looks like now we're going to get a little bit more of the backstory of at least Starbrand as he kind of takes center stage, and we've got some of the other Avengers stuff going on behind it. The Tony Stark seems to be trying to figure out what's going on. But again, this is just one of the 3 pieces to Hickman's big Avengers storyline.
And Spencer's doing some co-writing on that.
Yeah, Nick Spencer is the co-writer of this book. And so I don't know who's handling what exactly, but I'm sure it's all fitting in. And,
sure.
Again, this is picking up the Avengers, or the New Universe stuff that he started off in his regular Avengers book. Also by John Hickman, another Avengers book. This is New Avengers. This is number 15. And this one is getting back to that main story where we've got multiple Earths that are basically getting destroyed. And I can't remember the term, the convergence or something like that.
I believe that's right.
Yeah, something like that. So the 616 New Avengers, which are basically the Illuminati, are trying to find a way to save our Earth for when that happens to us. It's happened a couple of times. They've been able to fight it back, but they know inevitably this thing's going to pop up, and there are some other kind of big super alien space god sort of creatures that are kind of behind all of this. So yeah, this is kind of I think this is really where the central part of this storyline is happening, with these Earths sort of colliding.
Okay.
That's why the Avenger, or the Starbrand, was created. The Earth is creating things to kind of as a self-defense. So I'm sure when all is said and done, these are going to fit together pretty good. But yeah, this is a character from one of the dead Earths who came to this Earth and was captured very early on. Really, really good stuff in here. Again, this is the Illuminati Avengers, the guys who are behind everything with, what is it, Reed Richards, Black Bolt, Tony Stark,
Strange, right?
all the smart, powerful guys that are kind of running things behind the scenes. But great
Xavier's
stuff.
dead and they kick Captain America out.
Yeah, they got rid of Captain America, although I think that's going to come back to haunt them in that original Sin story. And now they've got the Beast.
Okay.
So there's always one X-Men, one Inhuman, things like that. Good stuff overall. Next up, Superior Spider-Man Annual number 2. This is actually written by Christos Gage. This is tying into the Goblin Nation storyline that we've got going on. This is focusing on Ben Urich. Normally a Daredevil character, but he has also been a prominent Spider-Man character because he's a Bugle reporter.
Yes.
His nephew, I think, is one of the goblins. He became the Hobgoblin who was good, or the Green Goblin that was good many years ago. Now he is the evil Hobgoblin, and as all the goblins are going wild. And this is kind of how Ben Urich fits into that storyline. I usually like Ben Urich stories.
I do too.
He's always been one of the better characters in Daredevil, always a great kind of grounded human take on things, who's living kind of intertwined with that world. Looks like we got some really nice artwork here, throwing back to what Dave Mazzucchelli did in Daredevil Born Again, which is really a good, really good Ben Urich storyline. I also got a little bit of a storyline that features Spider-Man's ex-girlfriend, Carly, got turned into a goblin as well.
Oh, did she?
So she's the one that actually ratted Otto out to Norman Osborn, or whoever the goblin may be. Like we said, they've not actually ever shown it to be Norman. So we'll see. But yeah, she's a goblin, but she's also still fighting to retain her personality. And here she's looking for a cure to her goblinness. But yeah, all of this is coming to a head with the big confrontation that will give us Peter Parker back when all is said and done. So it's all ending, finally. We're going to have no more Superior Spider-Man. But so far it's been a fun ride for those of you who don't mind a Spider-Man that's not Peter Parker. Next up, Uncanny X-Men. This is number 19. Brian Michael Bendis and Chris Bachalo. The last issue of this just kind of dealt with this X-Men team. This is kind of essentially the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. It's adult Cyclops and White Queen. Magneto has left this group because of his own book. He's not like Wolverine. Wolverine can be on 5 teams and have 2 solo books. Magneto, he gets a solo book, he has to quit.
He's out.
What a wussy. But anyway,
he's like David Lee Roth.
Yes. All along in this kind of this relaunched X-Men that Bendis has been doing, they've been chased by Sentinels, but nobody really knows who built these Sentinels. They have a S.H.I.E.L.D. logo, but S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't seem to know, or Maria Hill doesn't seem to know what's going on. So I think this looks like they're going to finally try and get to the bottom of who's creating these new Sentinels and sending them after the X-Men. So I think that's where this storyline is going. Overall, still been a very good book. This is focusing on the adult Cyclops the way that All New X-Men is focusing on the younger Cyclops. But now that they're on the same team, it's actually a weird dynamic. And in the last issue, they had a conversation that was very awkward for the both of them, which I guess having a conversation with your future or past self could be very awkward. I know I wouldn't want to do it. Next up, Ms. Marvel number 2. I picked up the first issue kind of on a whim. It was a light week, and there was a lot of buzz. This is the new Ms. Marvel. She is a Muslim teenage girl.
Yep.
First issue was really good.
I've heard that.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. Very different tone from what you're going to get in most of your comics. I think it's no coincidence that Adrian Alfona is the artist on this. He was the artist on Runaways.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So yeah, and it has that kind of feel. It's a lighter feel.
Yeah, it looks good. That looks great.
The artwork is beautiful. This character, do we have her name anywhere in here? Because I don't remember what it is. But anyway, after Infinity, when that Terrigen bomb went off and all the people who had Inhuman DNA got powers triggered, well, that's what happens to this teenage girl.
Okay.
She apparently has some Inhuman ability, so she got triggered, and apparently some sort of a shapeshifter because she pops up wearing her favorite character's appearance, which is Ms. Marvel. So now she's basically going to be the new Ms. Marvel, even though she's going to eventually go to her own look. But yeah, she idolized the character. always wanted to be a superhero, and now all of a sudden has the powers to do so. Yet still has to deal with her family and all this stuff. But I mean, you go back all the way back to Spider-Man with these kind of stories,
right?
And Marvel's always done a fantastic job, I think, of doing these kind of clever teenage stories that can appeal to people beyond just teenagers. I mean, I'm not a teenage girl, nor am I a Muslim. But I can still find something to relate to in the family dynamics. She's got a brother and a father, and you know, as with every teenager, no one in your family.
Great.
Yeah, fantastic artwork. But as every teenager, absolutely no one in your family understands you.
Well, right.
Add superpowers to that, it's going to get worse. Next up, Green Lantern New Guardians number 29. This is again kind of Kyle Rayner and Carol Ferris just roaming around the galaxy, fighting crime and having adventures out in space. This takes place on Tamaran, with the goddess Zal. That's Starfire's people, and this group that's going around basically killing deities. They call themselves the God Killers, and they're trying to break people of their kind of twisted and warped faith.
Didn't they do that in Thor?
Yeah. Well, that was one guy.
Oh, all right.
This is a bunch of guys.
So, yeah, in Marvel Universe, it only takes one guy to kill a bunch of gods?
Apparently so. And, well, you know, those Marvel gods are tougher, too.
Right.
But in any event, yeah, this group is going around, and it looks like they're trying to eradicate the deities that are being worshipped throughout the DC universe. And Zal's on their list.
All right.
Next
not to confuse with Zool.
Not Zool. Not Zool. There is no Gozer or Keymaster or anything like
that's
that.
That's too bad.
If the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man shows up in this book, actually, I wouldn't be surprised. Kyle could just make one. Next up, Supergirl number 29. This is part of the Red Daughter of Krypton. You know, we were talking about teenage girls earlier.
Yep.
Teenage girls can be very, very angry. And if you're very, very
angry... Yeah, we got one at our house. Yeah.
Get her a red ring.
That's a terrible idea.
So yeah, the Supergirl is now a Red Lantern, which is really interesting, kind of clever idea. The Red Lanterns are dangerous enough. Add Kryptonian powers to that, and things are not going to go well. This looks like she's still on Earth. So
what would happen if she had like a class ring? She gets a little red kryptonite put in that thing.
Ooh, that'd be bad.
That would be bad.
And maybe we will find out. But yeah, it looks like Lobo's in this. She's been fighting Lobo. She's fighting Silver Banshee. Normally I don't get Supergirl, but this has been crossing over with Red Lantern, so as long as she is a Red Lantern, I'll at least give this a shot. It's Tony Bedard writing it, who has done some great Lantern stuff in the past. Next up, Superman Unchained, number 6, Scott Snyder and Jim Lee. I don't really know what's going on in this book. Scott Snyder is a great Batman writer. His Superman is confusing me. Jim Lee doesn't seem to be able to get paired with really linear writers on Superman books. They keep giving him these guys who write a great run on Batman, then they give him Superman, and you're like, I don't really know what's going on. But I don't care, because this is Jim Lee artwork. This is Jim Lee drawing Superman. Superman and a Superman sort of character, an alien that crashed on Earth much as he did 75 years ago and has been working with the government behind the scenes. That's all I really remember. Superman and this guy team up, and then they fight, and I'm sure when all is said and done, I still won't know what's going on. But that's my stack.
Well, I guess that brings me to the top of my stack here. I'm looking at another one of these miniseries from Dark Horse Comics. This is The Witcher by Dark Horse. This is written by Paul Tobin. The main reason this is in my stack is it's got art by Joe Quirio. Joe Quirio is a local guy. He's been in here before. He worked on that Dark Horse Presents that had the Lobster Johnson story in it. That. So that was his first big work, and then now he's doing this book, Witcher. I'm not entirely sure what it's about. I have no idea, but I think Joe's art is absolutely incredible. I really like his stuff a lot. You know, he's got a heavy, Mike Mignola influence, but I don't see a ton of that in here. You know, he's very much got his own thing going on. Really cool, dark stuff.
Yeah.
I want to support Joe. I'm excited to see something new from him. And talk to him, trying to get him in the story. He says he's super busy, but obviously he's got some stuff going on.
Nice stuff.
We're gonna try and get him in, and we've got 5 months to do it here. So there's 5-issue miniseries, and pick that up. It's a local guy, especially if you're from the Detroit area. Pick it up. It's a local guy.
Yeah,
gotta support local stuff.
Indeed.
I'm shaking my head at this one.
My top pick is a strange one. From Boom Studios, it's Clockwork Angels.
All I got to say to you is take off to the Great White North. It's a beauty way to go.
Yep. This is actually by Kevin J. Anderson and Neil Peart, I don't know how exactly to pronounce it, of Rush. Clockwork Oranges, Clockwork Angels.
Clockwork Oranges would be a better...
actually was a Rush album that I do not have. I used to be a huge Rush fan when I was young. I think if you were like into sci-fi fantasy and you played Dungeons and Dragons and you lived in the suburbs in the late 70s and early 80s, you were issued, Rush. Everybody got a copy of Moving Pictures, and you played Subdivisions until they yelled at you. But in any event, I used to be a huge Rush fan. I haven't really listened in a while. I
can't take Geddy Lee's voice.
I can't.
I guess there's no voice. If he was narrating that book, I'd stab somebody. But at least that's not the case.
Neil Peart, great drummer, but also a very, very good lyricist. I mean, if you read the lyrics, it's very kind of poetic. He tells a lot of stories. So they're taking the stories that kind of, I guess, wove into this album and making a comic book out of it. So I think that's a neat idea. Definitely kind of,
We've seen this before. We saw, Alice Cooper had a comic with an album, and Kiss has had numerous things.
And I like when they do stuff like that. Certainly, the Rush fans are crazy people. So if they find out about this, I actually have to get a second copy for a friend of mine who was like, you got to make sure and get me one. So this
it might be hard to find because most rational people didn't order many of them.
I'm giving it a shot. The Rush fandom of my youth, plus not a whole lot that was really very unusual or.
So you can get out the 20-sided dice and the Mountain Dew and go into your basement and hang out.
Just put on the headphones and listen to Subdivisions over and over and over again. And while I'm doing that, I'll read Clockwork Orange. I'm actually going to probably wind up buying the album now because of this. So even if
they get you somehow.
Yeah, but hey, I'm a sucker for cross promotion. And I think this is kind of a neat idea. And honestly, I didn't even know about this book until yesterday. I saw an ad for it and went, "Oh my God, a Rush comic is coming out tomorrow." So yeah, I'll give it a shot. Why not? If it was a bigger week, maybe not. But hey, I'm a sucker.
Apparently. Well, that is your Week in Geek. Remember, we've got Tony Mello and Bill Pukowski in here Wednesday afternoon. So check that out. And check it out.